Hi, welcome back. In this session, we are going to verify certain web elements on a web page by pulling that information from an Excel file. So to demonstrate that really quickly and see what we're going to do, I'm just going to go to the sandbox and click element visibility. So what I'm trying to do here is that I'm going to pull all the web element information is on this web page into a spreadsheet. And then I'm going to create a test case where it's going to pull that information and verify the existence of these web elements on the web page. So this is very helpful if you have a large project, if you have to have certain web elements always visible on certain pages to be able to run this test case every time with your regression test and check that those web elements exist. The spreadsheet is very simple. It has three columns here. Element ID is basically giving the web element a name. Like page title would be the page title here, right? And then the element path would be the way you want to identify the web element, meaning you can identify it by XPath, by ID, and all the different ones that you can use with the driver.find method. And then the element type is at the last column. And the reason why I did that is because I wanted it to be universal, meaning I don't want to identify all web elements by XPath, right? There could be situations where you want to use different locators like ID or link. That's why I wanted to identify it here on the element type. And then in my test case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this information in, and then I'm going to identify the web element based on this and on this information. So let's hop on the next step. In this section, I'm going to add a Java class that I can use to pull data from an Excel file. Before I do that, though, I have to pull in two new dependencies to my POM file, and I need to go to the Maven repository, and then I'm going to write org.apache.py, search for it, and I'm going to pull in the dependencies for the first two here, py common and this one here. So let me start with the second one. I'm just going to go in latest version, click, and it's already copied to my clipboard, and add this dependency, and then I'm going to go back and just hit back, and get the dependency for the first one. Again, latest version 5.2.3. Click, has been copied. Now paste this into my POM file. We clean this up a little bit. It looks nice. Now it's safe. And let's load the Maven changes. Like these dependencies have to be loaded to my local computer so I can execute the newly created Excel Java class that I'm going to create in a bit. But let's see, new packages or new libraries have been added to my local computer, and as you can see, they're here under org.apache. So now let's go ahead and create a class. I'm going to go to my source folder under main Java. I'm going to create a new package, and I'm going to call it utilities. And under this utilities package, I am going to create a new Java class, and I'm going to call it XLUtils. I'm not going to write this from scratch. There's no need for that. I mean, there are many different versions of similar Java classes to interact with Excel files. I'm just going to go ahead and copy it from an online version that I found some time ago. I've been using it for years now. I'm very happy with it. So let me just copy it from my notepad and then paste it into my new Java class. All the necessary libraries and everything has been imported automatically into my new class. And now it is ready for me to make use of it. Real quick, we're just going to use the first method here. And for the first method to function properly, as you can see in the parameters, I have to pass on the sheet label, the worksheet label of the Excel file, and I have to pass in the path to the Excel file. We're going to demonstrate once I pull in the Excel file. But in a summary, what this method does, it gets all the information in this defined worksheet that I passed on with the sheet label, and it returns all the data through this here, which is a string array, and it contains all the information in that Excel sheet. Let's hop on to the next step. So now, since I have added the Excel utils class, where this is the class I'm going to use to pull information or data from the Excel file, I'm now going to create a new class where I'm going to add my test script. I'm going to call this class tip 4 verify elements pull from Excel. Then I'm going to basically just copy and paste the before and after method and this whole thing on the top here into my new class so I can reuse it. This I'm going to change to the highlight element sandbox. Let me just copy and paste this real quick from the website. Well, let me just show where it is. I'm just going to go into my sandbox, element visibility, and then just copy this URL and paste it into the test URL here. Perfect. Then, as always, I tend to write the steps I'm going to do for this test case on the top of the test class and just paste it here. So as outlined here, what I'm going to do is first demonstrate how to pull data from an Excel file. Second, verify the web elements on the web page. Third, and then I'm going to create a universal method to pull in all types of locators. It's going to make more sense once I show how this is done and what I mean by that. And fourth, final execution. So let's create a test. And let's call it public void verify element pull from Excel file. We'll just go down here, make this bigger, and let me remove this. I don't need this. So we have the full screen now. So now I need to check my I am going to pull in the Excel data through the data provider. So in order to do that, I am just going to write the data provider annotation. Give it a name. You can give it anything you want to. I'm going to name it tip 4 and leave it as is. Then I need to lay out this data provider method. It's going to throw, I'm going to add an exception into this so it can catch any exception that might occur. And in this data provider, I'm going to return Excel data by using the Excel utils class that I already have imported in the previous section. I'm going to say Excel utils dot get Excel data. I'm going to pass on sheet label. It's going to give me an error. I'm going to get rid of that in a second. And I'm going to pass on the path, right? And these sheet label and path, I'm going to put on the top of this class here. These are both strings. So I'm going to say string sheet label and I'm going to say string path over here. So I need to know the sheet label of the Excel file. I'm going to pull it down. The sheet label is, as you can see here, Gabriel 50. I'm just going to copy this and paste it in here. And as far as the path to the Excel file, I'm going to copy this Excel file into my project under the resources folder here. I'm just going to grab this Excel file and just paste it or move it, copy and paste it into this location. So let me just move this a little bit and I'm going to grab this and just move it into the resources. Yes. So as you can see now, my Excel file is here and you can use many worksheets. This does only contain one, but the logic is if you change the worksheet name with the same path, you can use many other worksheets based on the logic you want to use it. So now I have to find the path to this Excel file, and I am going to add system get property user directory plus the path from the root directory of this project. And to get that is very simple. You just right click on this. And once you right click, you are going to go to copy path and reference. And then you just from content root here. Once you copy this /, and now I have my path to my Excel file. Let's save this. Okay. Now what I'm going to do next is, so this data provider pulls the Excel data and sends it to the test. Of course, I have to put the data provider into my test annotation here too. So I'm just going to open parentheses, say data provider equals to, it has to match this name here. So I'm just going to call it tip4 as well. Perfect. So it is going to pull in that information based on the columns here. Okay. And I know that I have 3 columns. So I'm going to say string here, string, I'm going to give it the same name, element ID, copy and paste. Let's make them lowercase. And then string element path, and then string element type. So now through the power of the data provider, I have given my Excel utils class the getExcelData method, the sheet label, which is here, and the path to this Excel file. So now I have the information that I need, and this is going to be passed on to my test. What it's going to do is going to iterate through each of these rows, starting from the first row, not from the 0, because then it will hit the top row, and I don't want that. So it's going to start from the first row and go to the last one and pull that information in here. So let's just simply do some sys out and just see what it is, if it works fine or not. Plus element ID, copy this, paste, and finally delete this, and here I'm going to say element path into this, and here element type. So I'm trying to see if this works as I expect it to work. Just by doing a dry run without no tests really, just to test if the information from the Excel file is pulled into my script. And here I'm just going to do this so we can see it by section, right? So these three things should be pulled in, and then I'll see this, and then it will continue to the next one. So I'm going to save this, and let's do a run and see what's going to happen. Just ignore the start of the browser. It's just going to start the browser. That's not important. That's part of the test script that I'm going to write. Here, what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to see if the information is pulled in from the data provider. Perfect. So if I go to my console, here you can see all the information is pulled in from the Excel file. Perfect. See, the last one is about, element path is this, and then element type is XPath. One thing we noticed that for each run, the browser has been launched each time. I don't want that to happen. I only want it to launch once and then complete after this whole test has been executed. So I'm going to change my before method to before class and import this, and my after method to after class. Perfect. So this is going to execute just once before my test script is executed, and after everything is done, after class is going to do the tear down and close the browser. Let's see how this works, how this looks. Let me go ahead and start it. All right, it pulled up once, and all my data has been pulled in, and I can see them on the console. Perfect. Now in this section, I'm going to verify the visibility of the element. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the driver dot find element by XPath, and I'm going to get a string passed into it, which is my element path that I identified in my spreadsheet here, right? I'm just going to pass this string into that. And I'm going to use the isDisplayed method to have a Boolean returned, which I'm going to add into an assertion. So let me just put my assert here. Let's say assert true. If I put this into here, this method here, let me just cut this actually. Cut it and paste it. My assertion will see if this returns a true Boolean, which is only possible if the element is visible. And if it's true, my test will pass by doing this assertion. So let's give it a try. Save and run my test. Okay. It failed. I know why it failed, and I'm going to show you why it failed and also the solution for the problem. So as you can see here, this is a type of element type of XPath, which I kind of hard coded in here. This is not dynamic. It's static. So it looks for it puts each element path into an XPath and by locator and tries to find development through web element through this identify here. And then it looks for it and returns a Boolean value. But since this is an ID, it's not an XPath, it's going to fail on the second. And since this is an ID and not an XPath, it's going to fail here because it looks for this string here, test button 1, which is a string, which is an ID, and it's not going to be able to find it. Therefore, my test is going to fail here. There was another fail, which probably is because of something that I did wrong, probably by identifying the XPath, but that's not important. What is important now is that we find a dynamic logic where we can pass this information in and can receive the correct locator and therefore the correct web element. In order to do that, I am going to write a method that I'm going to use to perform this action. Let me just put it maybe down here. That's fine. We minimize this as well. So I'm going to write a method that is going to return a by class. Okay, so I'm going to say by, and then I'm going to give it a name, find element by locator and type. And I'm going to pass on two parameters into this. I'm going to pass the element path, and I'm going to pass the element type. So first I need to put a if condition to check that these two variables are not null. Okay, to do that I'm going to say if element path does not equal null and element type does not equal null, then do the following, whatever is going to come in here. I also need to identify my variable that I'm going to return. So I'm going to say by data type by, and then I'm going to say locator equals to null at the top at the beginning of this method. And I'm going to return this locator into my test script. So in here, what I'm going to do is, based on the element type data here, I'm going to create a logic that is going to return the correct by locator. I'm going to use a very simple switch statement for this. I'm going to say switch element type, and based on element type, return the correct locator. Okay, so in case of a XPath, I want to use the by XPath equals to by dot XPath, and I'm going to pass in the element path into this. And of course, I'm going to add a breakpoint here. Perfect. Let me copy this and do it for all the other possible variations. So if it is by, let's say by ID, I'm going to use ID, right? So if it's an ID type, then the element path is going to be passed on to by.id and going to return the correct locator to my test script. You can also add the other ones too. I'm going to give random names to them. You can feel free to change them. It's totally up to you. Class name, I'm going to change this to class name. And then I can also by CSS and do CSS selector. And I also can do name. I can do by name, also by tag name, tag name. Let me also do, I think, the two more here that I need to add. Let me add those as well, and you can use them accordingly. The other ones are, I believe, link text, and let's say link text, and the last one is partial link text. I'm going to use partial link text. Perfect. So all the possible bilocators are now identified here. Once this method is used by passing on these parameters, I'm going to get returned the correct locator that I'm looking for. Okay. So what I'll do is here, I'm going to say driver dot find element, and this expects in return a by data type. What I will do here is I'm just going to copy this method into this, and I'm going to pass on element path into this and the element type. Okay, so now this finds my web element, and if I again say is displayed, it's going to return a boolean for me that I can use in my assertion. So let me cut and paste this into this, and try and run and see how it looks. Save it and run it. launches my browser. As you can see, the ID passed, which was failing before, but now since I added the logic here to look for the element type through my spreadsheet, I got the correct one. I'm not sure why this is failing, which is not that important for this class today. We can identify and take a look at it, but I'm not going to waste your time to do that because the goal of this lecture was to be able to pull data from the Excel file and then use it to verify the elements. Thanks for watching, and if you have any comments or any questions, you can leave a comment on this video and I'll be happy to assist and help you with any questions you might have. Thank you, and please subscribe and like this video. Thank you very much. Bye.